Marcus Williams was 42 years old when he came home sick from work and discovered his wife had won $300 million and was planning to divorce him before claiming it. For 15 years, he'd been the family's anchor, paying every bill, managing every investment. While Shanice worked part-time and spent her commissions on lottery tickets, he never questioned. He trusted her completely, never saw it coming. That Tuesday afternoon, feverish and alone, Marcus found the divorce attorney's letter hidden in her desk. Then the lottery confirmation email. Then the text messages to her sister. "Once I'm free of Marcus, this money is all mine. He'll never see a dime." She'd been planning this for months. The affair with her wealthy boss. The strategy to separate before the claim. The contempt in every message, calling him small-minded and too boring to deserve this kind of luck. What Shanice didn't know was that 5 years earlier, Marcus had her sign one piece of paper, a document she'd dismissed as unnecessary, a document she'd completely forgotten. And in 3 days, Marcus would walk into her lawyer's office and destroy everything she'd built. Before we jump into the story, comment where in the world you are watching from and subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you need to hear. Marcus pulled into the driveway of their 2-story brick home in the quiet Atlanta suburb. The autumn sun was setting, painting the sky in soft oranges and purples. He grabbed his laptop bag from the passenger seat and walked up the familiar path lined with the mums he'd planted last weekend. Through the kitchen window, he could see Shanice moving around, her slim figure casting shadows as she prepared dinner. The sight made him smile. 15 years of marriage, and she still turned heads wherever they went. As he opened the front door, the warm aroma of baked chicken filled the air. Jaden and Nia sat at the kitchen table, textbooks spread out before them. Nia's forehead was creased in concentration as she stared at her math homework. "Daddy!" Nia jumped up, her braids bouncing as she ran to hug him. "Can you help me with fractions? They're so hard." Marcus set his bag down and hugged her tight. "Of course, baby girl. Let me just change out of my work clothes first." "Hey, Dad," Jaden said without looking up from his science textbook. At 13, he was trying hard to be cool, but Marcus could still see his little boy beneath the teenager facade. Shanice stood at the stove, stirring something. "Dinner's almost ready," she said, not turning around. Her voice had that flat tone it often carried lately. After changing into comfortable jeans and a t-shirt, Marcus sat beside Nia at the kitchen table. The familiar routine felt right, helping with homework while dinner simmered, the quiet conversation between family members, the subtle domestic rhythm they'd built over years. "So if you have 3/4 of a pizza," he explained to Nia, drawing circles on her notebook, "and you want to divide it into 3 equal parts, what fraction of the whole pizza would each person get?" As Nia worked through the problem, Marcus glanced at their family photos on the wall. Birthdays, vacations, school events. 15 years of memories. He'd worked hard to build this life, climbing from entry-level warehouse worker to senior logistics coordinator. Every promotion, every raise had gone toward their future. The college funds, the retirement accounts, the emergency savings he carefully managed. "Hey," he said, struck by an idea. "What if we take a family trip this weekend? We could drive up to Stone Mountain, have a picnic." "Really, Marcus?" Shanice interrupted, her voice sharp. "Another exciting weekend in suburban paradise?" The sarcasm in her tone made him flinch. Nia looked up from her homework, eyes darting between her parents. "I just thought," Marcus began. "You always think so small," Shanice muttered, turning back to the stove. Her phone buzzed on the counter. When she checked it, a smile spread across her face. The kind of warm, genuine smile Marcus hadn't seen directed at him in months. She quickly typed a response. "Who's that?" he asked casually. "Just Angela," she said, naming one of her girlfriends. "We're going out tonight. Girls' night." Marcus nodded, helping Nia solve another fraction problem. But he noticed things. He always did. The new designer purse sitting by the door. He didn't remember discussing that purchase. The expensive-looking blouse Shanice wore, tags still attached. The subtle scent of unfamiliar perfume. During dinner, Shanice barely participated in the conversation, focused on her phone. As soon as the dishes were done, she disappeared upstairs to get ready. When she came down an hour later, she looked stunning. Her hair was perfectly styled, her makeup flawless. The red dress she wore was definitely new, and definitely not in their budget. "Don't wait up," she called over her shoulder, already heading for the door. Marcus helped the kids with their bedtime routines, read Nia a story, reminded Jaden to charge his phone in the kitchen instead of his room. Normal evening tasks that felt hollow somehow. At midnight, he was still awake, staring at the ceiling. At 1. At 2. Finally, he heard the front door open quietly. Footsteps on the stairs, the bedroom door creaking. Shanice slipped into bed without a word. The scent of expensive perfume, definitely not her usual fragrance, filled the air between them. Marcus lay perfectly still, listening to her breathing, feeling the weight of unasked questions pressing down on his chest. The digital clock on the nightstand blinked 2:17 a.m. Outside, a car drove past, its headlights briefly illuminating the ceiling. In the darkness, Marcus remained awake, his mind racing with thoughts he wasn't ready to face. Marcus woke to a pounding headache and chills racking his body. Sunlight stabbed through the bedroom windows, making him squint. The space beside him was empty. Shanice must have already left for work. His whole body ached like he'd been hit by a truck. He reached for his phone, checking the time. 8:47 a.m. The kids would be at school by now. His throat felt like sandpaper, and his skin burned with fever. There was no way he could make it to work today. Fumbling with his phone, he called his supervisor. "Hey, Jim, I hate to do this, but I've got some kind of flu. Won't be able to make it in today." "Take care of yourself, Marcus," Jim replied. "Those shipping manifests can wait." As he ended the call, a text from Shanice popped up. "Heard you're sick. Rest up." The cheerful tone seemed odd. Usually she'd be annoyed about having to handle everything herself when he was sick. But lately, everything about her seemed odd. Marcus tried to go back to sleep, but his racing thoughts wouldn't let him rest. The memory of last night's late return, the new clothes, the dismissive attitude, it all swirled in his feverish mind. After an hour of tossing and turning, he gave up. Wrapping himself in his robe, Marcus shuffled downstairs to make some tea. His grandmother's voice echoed in his head. Hot tea with honey cures everything. As he passed the home office, something caught his eye. The door was slightly open, unusual, since Shanice always kept it locked these days. She must have been in a hurry this morning. He pushed the door open, wincing at the squeak of hinges. The morning sun streamed through the windows, illuminating scattered papers on the desk. A stack of mail sat precariously near the edge, and one envelope caught his attention. The letterhead read, "Patricia Lawson, Family Law Attorney." Marcus's hands trembled as he picked up the letter. It was addressed to Shanice, dated last week. His eyes scanned the pages, certain phrases jumping out like neon signs. "Regarding our consultation on high-asset divorce strategy, pre-claim spousal separation timing is crucial. Maximizing client outcome through strategic asset protection. Protecting windfall assets from equitable distribution." The room seemed to spin. Divorce strategy? Asset protection? His stomach churned, and not just from the flu. The desktop computer hummed softly in the corner. Marcus sat down heavily in the office chair, his fever momentarily forgotten. He knew Shanice's password. She always used Jaden's birthday for everything, claiming she'd forget anything else. His fingers shook as he typed in the numbers. The screen came to life. Chrome was still open, multiple tabs displaying email and search results. One tab showed a lottery ticket confirmation from 6 weeks ago. Another had a Google search for Georgia Mega Millions winning numbers. Marcus's heart pounded as he cross-referenced the dates and numbers. The room seemed to tilt sideways as reality crashed in. Shanice's numbers matched the $300 million jackpot from last month's drawing. In her email inbox, he found dozens of exchanges with Patricia Lawson. They discussed timing, strategy, legal precedents. One email made his blood run cold. "We need to ensure the separation is legally established before claiming the prize. This will minimize spousal entitlement and protect your interests. Time is of essence. Lottery claims must be made within 180 days of drawing." Marcus sat back, his body numb. The fever seemed distant now, overshadowed by the ice spreading through his chest. 15 years of marriage, 2 children, all their shared dreams and struggles, and Shanice was planning to take $300 million and leave him with nothing. His eyes burned as he read more emails. They outlined a clear strategy: file for divorce, claiming irreconcilable differences, push for quick separation, then claim the lottery prize as separate property. Patricia advised waiting until the separation was final, to avoid any claim of the ticket being marital property. The morning sun continued its path across the office floor as Marcus sat there, reading email after email. Each one revealed more of the calculated betrayal. His tea grew cold on the desk, forgotten. Outside, a neighbor mowed their lawn, the distant drone of the mower a surreal counterpoint to his world falling apart. His phone buzzed again, another text from Shanice. "Made you soup before I left. It's in the fridge. Take care." Marcus stared at the message, seeing it for what it was now: a performance, just like her cheerful goodbye this morning, just like everything lately. While he'd been managing their modest savings and planning for their future, she'd been plotting her escape, with enough money to never look back. Marcus's trembling fingers hovered over the keyboard. The initial shock of discovering the lottery ticket and divorce plans gave way to a gnawing suspicion that there was more. There had to be more. His logistics training kicked in. If there was one layer of deception, others would likely exist beneath it. He clicked through Shanice's email folders systematically. In her cloud backup, he found a folder labeled Personal that contained text message archives. His stomach clenched as he opened the first file. The messages were between Shanice and a contact saved as DT. The earliest ones dated back 4 months. As Marcus scrolled, his fever-induced dizziness was replaced by a cold, crystallizing clarity. "Can't wait to see you tonight, beautiful. The usual suite at the Westin? DT. Miss you already. Last night was amazing. Marcus is working late again. So predictable. Shanice DT, Darius Thompson, the owner of the luxury car dealership where Shanice worked. Marcus had met him once at a company holiday party, remembered his expensive suit, and practiced charm. Marcus opened attachment after attachment, hotel receipts from the Westin, photos of Shanice and Darius at restaurants Marcus could never afford, screenshots of airline tickets for weekend getaways they'd taken while Marcus watched the kids, believing Shanice was at sales conferences. The messages grew more frequent after the lottery win. "Baby, once this is done, we'll have everything we ever wanted. No more hiding. Shanice, my attorneys will make sure that fool doesn't get a dime. You played it smart, waiting to claim it. Darius, I learned from the best, can't wait to start our life together." Shanice Marcus's hands curled into fists. He forced them to relax, reminding himself to stay methodical. He pulled out his phone and began photographing every screen, every message, every receipt. Each click of the camera felt like another nail in the coffin of his marriage. He created a secure cloud drive on his personal account and began uploading everything. Evidence, That's what it all was now. Not memories or intimacies, but evidence. A message thread between Shanice and her sister Vanessa made bile rise in his throat. Once I'm free of Marcus, this money is all mine. He'll never see a dime. That small-minded fool never saw it coming. Shanice, girl, you played this perfect. He's been too busy paying bills and being boring to notice anything. Vanessa, right? Always talking about savings and investments while I was making real money moves. Watch me upgrade from Toyota to Tesla. Shanice Marcus sat back, letting the words sink in. 15 years of marriage reduced to jokes and contempt. He kept searching, his analytical mind cataloging every betrayal. In her email trash folder, he found deleted credit card statements. Over 3 years, Shanice had spent thousands on lottery tickets, all charged to their joint card. The same card Marcus paid off every month from his salary, believing the charges were for work clothes and client lunches. He'd literally funded her escape plan. More messages revealed the depth of Darius's involvement. He'd introduced Shanice to Patricia Lawson, his own divorce attorney. They'd planned the timing meticulously. File for divorce, push Marcus out of the house, claim the ticket after separation was established. Patricia says timing is everything, Darius wrote. Once you're legally separated, the ticket becomes your separate property. Marcus won't have any claim. You think of everything, baby, Shanice replied. That's why you're successful, and he's still pushing papers at that shipping company. Marcus found a folder of photos. Shanice and Darius viewing luxury homes, shopping for cars, enjoying expensive dinners. In every image, they looked like the perfect wealthy couple. The kind of life Shanice had apparently always wanted. One Marcus could never provide. His phone buzzed again. Another text from Shanice. Checking on you. Did you find the soup? The fake concern made his stomach turn. He didn't reply. Instead, he kept searching, downloading, documenting. Every message, every photo, every receipt became another piece of ammunition. His fever burned, but his mind remained sharp, focused on the task at hand. After 3 hours, Marcus had compiled everything into organized folders in his secure cloud drive. He'd photographed every crucial piece of evidence. He knew exactly who was involved, what they'd planned, and how long they'd been planning it. He closed the computer carefully, leaving everything exactly as he'd found it. The office was silent except for the soft hum of the desktop tower. Outside, life continued normally. Cars passing, birds singing, neighbors going about their day. Marcus sat motionless in the office chair, his tactical mind already shifting from discovery to strategy. He needed more information, needed to understand the full scope of the conspiracy before making any moves. Friday evening settled over the Williams household like any other night. But for Marcus, every moment felt surreal. He sat at the dinner table, mechanically cutting his chicken, while Nia chatted about her dance practice. And then Sarah fell during the spin. But Ms. Johnson said it happens to everyone, Nia explained, gesturing with her fork. That's right, baby, Marcus responded, his voice steady despite the storm inside him. Everyone makes mistakes. It's how you handle them that matters. Shanice reached across the table, touching his hand with practiced affection. You're still looking a bit pale, honey. Maybe you should get to bed early tonight. Marcus noted how easily the concern flowed from her, how perfectly she played the role of caring wife. He squeezed her hand back, remembering all the messages he'd read between her and Darius. I'm feeling better, actually. Amazing what a day of rest can do. Dad, can you help me with my science project tomorrow? Jaden asked, pushing his vegetables around his plate. Of course, son. Marcus caught Shanice checking her phone under the table, her thumb moving in that now familiar pattern of opening secret message threads. After dinner, Marcus helped with dishes, reviewed homework, and tucked the kids in, his normal routine. But every movement felt deliberate, like an actor hitting his marks. He watched Shanice from the corner of his eye, noting how she slipped away to the bathroom for lengthy periods, no doubt messaging Darius. The next morning, Marcus maintained his surveillance while appearing to recover from his illness. He caught Shanice in several small lies, running errands that were actually hotel meetups, work calls that were conversations with Patricia Lawson. Using his IT knowledge, he set up alerts for any new emails or message backups to their shared cloud storage. Each notification brought fresh pain. "The papers are almost ready," Shanice wrote to Patricia. "Just need to time this perfectly. My man's got it all planned," she texted Darius. "Once the money's secured, we'll live like royalty." The most devastating discovery came Saturday morning. While reviewing older messages, Marcus found the first exchanges between Shanice and Darius from 8 months ago. Long before any lottery win, they'd been planning their future. "Just need my ticket out of this boring life," Shanice had written. "Marcus is so content with mediocrity." "You deserve better, beautiful," Darius replied. "Someone who thinks bigger." Marcus felt physically ill reading their early exchanges. The lottery hadn't created this betrayal, it had simply accelerated a plan already in motion. His wife had been positioning herself to leave, cultivating her escape route while sharing his bed and raising their children. When Shanice left for her Saturday morning gym session, actually another meeting with Darius, according to her messages, Marcus drove across Atlanta to his cousin Terrence's law office. The familiar brick building offered a strange comfort. Here was someone he could trust completely. Terrence, dressed casually in jeans and a polo for weekend work, listened intently as Marcus laid out everything: the lottery ticket, the affair, the conspiracy with Patricia Lawson. Marcus pulled up his organized evidence folders, showing email threads and photographs. "That conniving—" Terrence's professional demeanor cracked as he scrolled through the messages. "Marcus, this is straight-up attempted marital fraud. Georgia law is clear. Anything acquired during marriage is joint property. That ticket? It's half yours, regardless of who bought it." "There's more," Marcus said quietly. He reached for his phone, pulling up one final document. "Remember that inheritance from Grandma Rose? The post-nuptial agreement you drafted for us?" Terrence's eyes widened. He turned to his filing cabinet, fingers flying through folders until he found what he wanted. The original agreement, signed and notarized 5 years ago. Section 4, Paragraph C, Marcus recited from memory. "All windfalls, inheritances, lottery winnings, and unexpected financial gains acquired during marriage shall be considered marital property, subject to equal division." Terrence scanned the document, a slow grin spreading across his face. "She just signed it without reading, didn't she? Thought it was just about your grandmother's $50,000? Called it unnecessary paperwork for my tiny inheritance," Marcus confirmed. "Even rolled her eyes when I insisted we both get it notarized." Terrence held up the agreement like a trophy. "This right here? This is your nuclear option, Marcus. While she's been playing checkers, you've been playing chess without even knowing it." The Sunday evening air felt heavy in the Williams household. Marcus had noticed Shanice's peculiar insistence on sending the children to their rooms right after dinner, breaking their usual family routine of board games or movie time. Now he understood why, as she pulled the manila envelope from her designer handbag. "We need to talk," Shanice said, her voice carrying a practiced neutrality that Marcus now recognized as her sales pitch tone, the same one she used to convince uncertain customers at the dealership. Marcus sat quietly at the dining room table, the remnants of their family dinner still visible: Nia's half-eaten roll, Jaden's carefully separated vegetable. The familiar scene felt like a museum exhibit of what their life had been just moments ago. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," Shanice continued, smoothing her silk blouse. "New," Marcus noted, "probably another secret purchase. About us. About where we're headed." Marcus watched her hands as she opened the envelope. noting how her usually perfect manicure had a chip in it. Stress, perhaps, from her scheming. He kept his breathing steady, his face a mask of attentive concern. "We've grown apart, Mark. I need more from life." Shanice's words came out rehearsed, like lines from a script. "I'm filing for divorce." The papers slid across the cherry wood table, the same table they'd bought together at their 10th anniversary, arguing playfully about whether it was too expensive. A silver pen followed, one Marcus recognized from Darius's dealership. "Everything's laid out clearly," Shanice explained, her tone businesslike. "I've tried to be generous." Marcus picked up the documents, taking his time. The settlement terms were laid out in cold legal language. He would keep his 2018 Honda Civic and receive a generous cash settlement of $20,000. Shanice would retain the house, primary custody of the children, and all other marital assets. He was expected to vacate their family home within 30 days. The careful omission of any mention of lottery winnings or significant assets was glaring. Patricia Lawson's strategy was obvious. Rush through a quick divorce before the ticket claim, establish a precedent of agreed-upon asset division that excluded any mention of the windfall. As he read, Marcus noticed Shanice's fingers drumming lightly on the table, the only outward sign of her impatience. She'd expected him to react emotionally, perhaps, to sign quickly just to end the pain, or to break down and beg her to reconsider. The Marcus she thought she knew would have done exactly that. "I need time to think about this," he said finally, his voice steady and calm. He looked up, meeting her eyes. The slight widening of Shanice's eyes, the momentary parting of her lips. These tiny tells confirmed his suspicion. She'd counted on his immediate capitulation. This measured response wasn't in her script. "There's nothing to think about," Shanice said, an edge creeping into her voice. "This is happening, Marcus. I've made up my mind." "I understand," Marcus replied, maintaining his composure despite his racing heart. "And if this is what you want, we'll proceed. But I want what's fair, Shanice. I'll have my attorney review this and respond properly." "Attorney?" Shanice's mask slipped further, a flash of alarm crossing her features. "That's unnecessary. Patricia has handled everything fairly. You're just going to waste money we don't have on lawyers." Marcus noted her choice of words. "Money we don't have." Another careful deception. "Legal review is standard in divorces," he said simply, "especially with children involved." Shanice's perfectly manicured nails now pressed flat against the table, her frustration becoming more visible. "Don't drag this out, Marcus. It's over." Marcus stood slowly, straightening his shirt. The unsigned papers remained on the table between them, like a line drawn in sand. "Then let's do it right," he said quietly. He could feel Shanice's eyes boring into his back as he walked away, could almost hear the frantic calculations happening behind her carefully maintained expression. For the first time in their marriage, Marcus had deviated from her script. He'd chosen his own lines. The gleaming office building that housed Patricia Lawson's law practice reflected the morning sun like a mirror, its modern architecture a stark contrast to the historic Atlanta courthouse across the street. Marcus sat in the pristine waiting room beside Terrence, the manila folder containing their trump card resting securely in his hands. The space reeked of expensive ambition, Italian leather chairs, abstract art that probably cost more than Marcus's car, and a coffee machine that looked like it belonged in a spacecraft. It was designed to intimidate, to remind clients of their place in the hierarchy of power. Marcus remained unruffled. His hands were steady as he held the folder, his breathing calm and measured. Terrence, dressed in an impeccably tailored charcoal suit, projected quiet confidence. They'd arrived 15 minutes early, a tactical decision to establish control of the situation. "You doing okay?" Terrence asked quietly, though he already knew the answer. Marcus's composure hadn't wavered since they'd planned this confrontation. "I'm good," Marcus replied, his voice low and steady. just ready to end the games. The receptionist, who'd been stealing curious glances at them since their arrival, suddenly sat straighter. The click of expensive heels on marble announced Patricia Lawson's arrival before she appeared. She strode into the waiting room with the confidence of someone used to controlling every situation. Tall, immaculately dressed in a designer suit, her silver hair cut in an expensive bob, everything about her screamed power and privilege. Her smile was professional but held a hint of condescension as she assessed Marcus. "Mr. Williams," she began, "I wasn't expecting—" She paused, recognizing Terence. Her smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "Terence Williams, this is unexpected." "Patricia?" Terence nodded, his tone collegial but firm. "Shall we?" She led them to a conference room that continued the theme of calculated intimidation. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a massive mahogany table, leather chairs that probably cost more than a month's mortgage payment. Marcus noted how she positioned herself at the head of the table. A subtle power play. "Mr. Williams," Patricia began, her tone suggesting she was speaking to a difficult child, "if you're here to negotiate the settlement terms, I should tell you my client has been quite generous." "We're not here to negotiate," Terence interrupted smoothly, his voice cutting through her practiced speech like a knife through butter. "We're here to clarify the legal reality of this situation." Marcus watched Patricia's face carefully as he reached for the folder. Her expression was still confident, almost bored, the look of someone who'd seen countless desperate spouses try to fight the inevitable. That was about to change. With deliberate slowness, Marcus extracted the single document and slid it across the polished mahogany surface. The paper seemed to whisper against the wood in the suddenly quiet room. Patricia picked up the document, probably expecting another emotional plea or amateur legal argument. Her eyes scanned the first few lines. Then she froze. Marcus watched as her professional mask cracked. Her eyes widened slightly, then narrowed as she read further. Her perfectly manicured fingers tightened on the paper's edges. By the time she reached the specific clause about lottery winnings, her face had lost its practiced neutrality entirely. Without a word, she reached for her phone, pressing the speaker button and a speed dial number. The ring echoed in the tense silence. "What?" Shanice's voice came through, irritated and slightly breathless, as if she'd been interrupted during something important. "Your husband has a post-nuptial agreement that covers lottery winnings," Patricia stated flatly, all pretense gone from her voice. "If you claim that prize, he's legally entitled to half. If you attempt to hide or transfer assets, that's fraud." The silence that followed lasted 2 heartbeats. Then Shanice's voice exploded from the speaker. "What agreement? I never signed—" The words died in her throat. Marcus could almost see the moment playing out in her mind. 5 years ago, in their kitchen, him explaining about his grandmother's inheritance, her dismissively signing the unnecessary paperwork without reading it properly, more concerned with getting to her hair appointment than understanding what she was agreeing to. "You signed it 5 years ago, Shanice," Marcus said, his voice steady and calm. "You just didn't think it mattered." The silence that followed was absolute. Even the usual sounds of the office seemed muted, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Then, without another word, the line went dead. The afternoon sun cast harsh shadows through Patricia Lawson's office windows as Shanice burst through the door, Darius Thompson close behind her. Her designer heels clacked against the marble floor like angry punctuation marks. Patricia looked up from her desk, dark circles under her eyes suggesting she'd been dreading this moment. "Tell me this isn't happening," Shanice demanded, slamming her purse onto the conference table. "Tell me you can fix this." Patricia gestured for them to sit, but neither did. Darius stood behind Shanice, his expensive suit and carefully maintained appearance contrasting with the tension in his jaw. He placed his hands on Shanice's shoulders, a gesture that looked more possessive than comforting. I've reviewed the post-nuptial agreement thoroughly, Patricia began, her voice professional but weary. It's ironclad. The language specifically covers lottery winnings and unexpected financial gains during the marriage. It was properly executed, witnessed, and notarized. I don't care about the paperwork. Shanice's voice rose. That money is mine. I bought the ticket. With joint funds, Patricia corrected. From a credit card Marcus paid off monthly. That alone would give him a claim, but the post-nuptial makes it absolute. She straightened in her chair. You have 3 options. First, split the winnings 50-50 with Marcus, as per the agreement. Second, negotiate a settlement for less than half to avoid a lengthy court battle. Or third, don't claim the prize at all. Don't claim, Shanice choked on the words. Are you insane? It's $300 million, half of which is legally Marcus's, Patricia stated firmly. Darius stepped forward, his charm cranked up to maximum wattage. Ms. Lawson, surely there's some angle we haven't considered. A loophole, perhaps. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Money has a way of making problems disappear. Patricia's spine stiffened. Mr. Thompson, I suggest you choose your next words very carefully. I'm an officer of the court. Meanwhile, across town, Marcus sat in his home office, methodically documenting every message that synced to their shared cloud storage. What he found made his stomach turn. A group chat between Shanice, her mother Gloria, and sister Vanessa revealed the depth of their conspiracy. They'd been planning the division of the money for weeks. Gloria. Once it's claimed, we move fast. 200 mailers for Shanice, 50 mailers for Darius's help, 30 mailers for me to finally live right, and 20 mailers for you, Van. Vanessa. What about Marcus? Gloria. That small-minded fool? He gets nothing. He's held Shanice back long enough. Marcus's jaw clenched as he read their plans for the children. They'd discussed coaching Jaden and Nia to say Marcus was scary when angry and never home. Gloria had suggested recording Marcus if he got upset about the divorce, to show the judge his instability. The messages continued, growing more detailed and vindictive. Shanice. Once I have the money, I'll make sure he never sees the kids. They deserve the best life, not his boring suburban existence. Gloria. Exactly. And with Darius, you'll finally have the lifestyle you deserve. Marcus never understood your potential. Back in Patricia's office, the tension had reached a breaking point. I won't give him a single penny, Shanice shouted, mascara starting to run. He trapped me with that agreement. He planned this. He planned for you to win the lottery and try to hide it from him? Patricia's tone was sharp. Mrs. Williams, you used marital funds to purchase tickets for 3 years. You conspired to claim the prize without his knowledge. Enough, Darius cut in. We need solutions, not lectures. There must be ways around this agreement. Offshore accounts, business investments, something. Patricia stood, gathering her files. What you're suggesting is fraud. I won't be party to it. She looked directly at Shanice. The lottery claim deadline is in 3 weeks. I strongly advise you to comply with the post-nuptial agreement. Or what? Shanice challenged. Or you'll face serious legal consequences. And, Mr. Thompson? She turned to Darius. Suggesting ways to hide marital assets could make you legally liable as well. That evening, a courier delivered a letter to Shanice's hotel suite. Patricia Lawson was withdrawing as her counsel, citing insurmountable ethical concerns regarding the proposed handling of marital assets. Darius made a call before Shanice could break down completely. Malcolm Reed, he said into his phone, pacing the hotel room. Yeah, it's Darius Thompson. Remember that favor you owe me? I have a client who needs your creative approach to family law. Wednesday morning's gray sky matched the mood in Malcolm Reed's cluttered office as he laid out his strategy. Shanice sat forward in her chair, desperate hope written across her face. while Darius lounged with false confidence beside her. "The post-nuptial agreement is strong," Reed admitted, his voice rough from years of cigarettes. "But we can work around it if we move fast. Form an LLC today, claim the prize through the business entity. By the time your husband's lawyer can react, the money will be secured." "What about the agreement?" Shanice asked, wringing her hands. Reed waved dismissively. "Let them fight it in court later. Right now, we need that money claimed and protected. Once it's in your control, we have leverage." Darius nodded approvingly. "How quickly can we set this up?" "I've got the LLC paperwork ready. We file electronically, get your signature, and claim the prize this afternoon." Reed's smile didn't reach his eyes. Time is our weapon here. Across town, Marcus sat in Jerome's financial planning office, surrounded by spreadsheets and documentation. His sister Kendra had taken a day off from her CPA practice to help, her meticulous nature perfect for their task. "Every lottery ticket purchase is highlighted," Kendra said, pointing to a credit card statement. 3 years of charges, all from your joint account. We've got the total, $23,847 spent on tickets." Jerome whistled low. "That's a lot of marital funds spent pursuing a secret exit strategy." "Document it all," Marcus instructed quietly. "Every penny matters." His phone buzzed, a text from Diana Mitchell, HR director at Shanice's dealership. "Got your email. Evidence received. Board meeting emergency session this afternoon." Marcus had sent Diana a carefully curated file that morning. Hotel receipts, time-stamped photos, email exchanges between Shanice and Darius on company servers, all proving their affair and violation of workplace policy. "How's the timeline looking?" Marcus asked Kendra. She checked her notes. 10 days until the lottery claim deadline. Terrence is ready with the emergency injunction if... Marcus's phone rang. It was Terrence. "She's making a move. Reed just filed LLC paperwork for Williams Ventures LLC. They're headed to the lottery office." Everything accelerated. Terrence's legal team sprang into action, filing the emergency injunction. Marcus and Kendra rushed to the courthouse with their documentation, while Jerome coordinated with their financial team. 2 hours later, in a judge's chambers, Terrence presented their case. The judge, reviewing the postnuptial agreement and evidence of attempted fraud, signed the temporary restraining order. No lottery claim could be processed until a proper hearing determined asset division. At the lottery office, Shanice stood at the claims counter, LLC paperwork in hand, when her phone rang. Malcolm Reed's voice trembled with barely controlled anger. "Get back here now! They've frozen everything. We're blocked." By late afternoon, the trap had closed completely. Diana Mitchell sent Marcus another text. "Board decision unanimous. Darius suspended pending investigation." Security escorted him out. Evening settled over Atlanta like a heavy blanket. Marcus sat in his home office, reviewing documentation with Kendra when the doorbell rang. Through the security camera, he saw Shanice on the porch, makeup perfectly done despite the tears running down her face. "Please, Marcus," she called through the door. "We need to talk. I made a mistake. I was scared, confused. We can work this out." Marcus stood in the doorway, blocking her entrance. The woman he'd loved for 15 years looked small suddenly, her designer clothes and careful makeup unable to hide her desperation. "I still love you," she whispered. "The money. We can share it. Start fresh. Think about the children." "The children you plan to turn against me?" Marcus's voice remained steady. "The ones you and your mother plotted to use as weapons in court?" Shanice's face flickered. She hadn't known he'd seen those messages. "That was just talk. You know how Mama gets. I would never." "Stop lying, Shanice." Marcus held up his phone, showing the group chat screenshots. "Every plan, every scheme, every cruel word. It's all documented. 3 years of lottery tickets on my credit card. 8 months of affair receipts. Your mother dividing up money that was never just yours to take." Marcus, please. Sign the divorce papers, he said firmly. This ends in court. There's nothing left to discuss. Shanice's face transformed, tears vanishing as her true nature emerged. You think you're so smart? You and your precious documentation? You're still that same small-minded man who… Goodbye, Shanice. Marcus closed the door, her angry words cut off mid-sentence. Through the window, he watched her storm to her car, designer heels stabbing the driveway with each step. She was already on her phone, likely calling Reed or Darius, desperate for a solution that didn't exist. Inside, Kendra touched her brother's shoulder. You okay? Marcus nodded, turning back to their work. Let's finish preparing for Friday's hearing. Every detail matters now. Friday morning, sunlight filtered through the high windows of courtroom 3B, casting long shadows across the polished wood and tense faces. Judge Barbara Freeman adjusted her reading glasses, her expression stern, as she reviewed the documents before her. Her decades of experience had taught her to read people as well as papers, and her sharp eyes missed nothing. Marcus sat straight-backed beside Terence, his calm exterior masking the thundering of his heart. Across the aisle, Shanice fidgeted in her designer suit, whispering urgently to Malcolm Reed, whose usual swagger had diminished considerably since entering the courtroom. We'll begin with the petitioner's evidence, Judge Freeman announced, her voice carrying the weight of authority earned through years on the bench. Terence rose smoothly, approaching the bench with a leather portfolio. Your Honor, I present Exhibit A, the post-nuptial agreement signed by both parties in 2018. He distributed copies to the judge and opposing counsel. This document, properly notarized and witnessed, explicitly states that all windfalls, including lottery winnings, are to be considered marital property subject to equal division. Reed jumped up. Your Honor, my client signed this agreement under duress. I have affidavits from the witnesses and notary. Terence interrupted, producing more documents. Ms. Williams had full opportunity to review the agreement, declined independent counsel when offered, and signed without objection. There are photos from the signing showing her smiling and celebrating afterward. Judge Freeman studied the documents while Reed deflated visibly. Shanice's face tightened with barely controlled rage. Furthermore, Terence continued, we present evidence of systematic financial deception. He introduced bank statements, credit card records, and spreadsheets. Over 3 years, Ms. Williams spent $23,847 in marital funds purchasing lottery tickets without Mr. Williams's knowledge. She used their joint credit card, which he paid off monthly. The judge's eyebrows rose as she reviewed the documentation. And the winning ticket? Purchased with those same marital funds, Your Honor. Terence then presented the email exchanges and text messages revealing the affair with Darius Thompson, including hotel receipts and photos. He showed the conversations between Shanice, her mother, and sister, planning to hide the lottery winnings through offshore accounts. Most disturbing, Terence said gravely, are these messages discussing how to manipulate the children against their father. He played several recorded conversations where Shanice and Gloria planned their strategy to paint Marcus as unstable. Reed attempted weak objections, but Judge Freeman overruled each one. When Shanice took the stand, her performance began confidently enough. Marcus has always been controlling with money, she claimed, dabbing at carefully manufactured tears. He forced me to sign that agreement. He monitors every penny I spend. I just wanted some independence. Ms. Williams, Judge Freeman interrupted, I have in front of me your text messages calling your husband, and I quote, a small-minded fool who never saw it coming. You mock his careful financial management while secretly spending thousands of marital dollars on lottery tickets. How do you reconcile these contradictions? Shanice's facade cracked. I meant, and these messages to Mr. Thompson, planning to hide assets offshore? You wrote, once I dump Marcus, We'll live like royalty." The judge's voice carried steel. "That doesn't sound like someone seeking independence. It sounds like someone plotting fraud." The courtroom fell silent as Judge Freeman removed her glasses, fixing Shanice with a penetrating stare. "I've seen many attempts to circumvent marital property law in my years on this bench. Few have been as thoroughly documented or as coldly calculated as this one." She straightened her robes and delivered her ruling. "The $300 million lottery prize, which will be approximately $180 million after taxes, must be claimed jointly and divided equally. Each party will receive $90 million. She raised her hand as Shanice began to protest. "Furthermore, given the evidence of attempted fraud and documented efforts at parental alienation, I award Mr. Williams the marital home and primary custody of the children." "No!" Shanice's cry echoed through the courtroom. "Ms. Williams will receive supervised visitation only, pending completion of co-parenting counseling and anger management courses." Judge Freeman's gavel cracked like thunder. "This court is adjourned." Marcus remained seated as Shanice rushed out, Reed trailing behind her. In the hallway, he could hear her sobbing dramatically, but his focus remained on gathering his documents with Terrence. They exited the courtroom deliberately, giving Shanice time to clear the hallway. But in the parking lot, Gloria and Vanessa were waiting. Gloria's face was twisted with fury as she stormed toward Marcus. "You monster!" she screamed. "You're tearing this family apart, taking money from your children's mother." The soft lighting of the middle school auditorium cast a gentle glow on the stage as Marcus Williams leaned forward in his seat, his heart swelling with pride. Beside him, Simone Carter's hand rested lightly on his arm as they watched Nia prepare for her dance solo. The gentle scent of Simone's lavender perfume mingled with the familiar auditorium smells of wood polish and anticipation. Earlier that morning, Marcus had stood in his home office, reading Shanice's letter. Her handwriting was neat and controlled, so different from the angry scrawls she'd sent during their divorce. She wrote about therapy, about understanding her mistakes, about wanting to rebuild something healthy for their children. Marcus had sat at his desk, crafted a careful response. Honest, but not cruel. Firm, but not bitter. "I'm glad you're getting help. We can be respectful co-parents, but the bridge you burned can't be rebuilt, only replaced with something functional. That's enough." Now, watching Nia take her position on stage, Marcus felt the rightness of those words. The past 18 months had transformed his life in ways he never could have imagined. With Jerome's guidance, he'd turned his $90 million settlement into a carefully structured legacy. The diversified portfolio generated steady returns, ensuring his children's future security. Jaden and Nia's college funds were fully funded, a weight lifted that he'd carried since their births. His charitable foundation, the Williams Family Future Fund, had already helped dozens of working families in Atlanta navigate financial challenges. Just last week, they'd provided emergency assistance to a single mother facing eviction, giving her children the stability Marcus knew was precious. The foundation's mentorship program for young entrepreneurs filled his days with purpose, letting him share the hard-won wisdom of his experiences. Behind him, Jerome and Kendra whispered about Nia's costume, their presence a reminder of the unwavering support that had carried him through the darkest days. They'd helped him build this new life piece by piece, investment by investment, decision by decision. The music began, and Nia moved with a grace that brought tears to Marcus's eyes. She'd discovered dance during those difficult months after the divorce, finding her own way to express emotions too complex for words. Now, at 12, she moved with confidence and joy, her face serene as she executed each carefully practiced movement. Simone squeezed his arm gently. Their relationship had developed slowly, naturally, after meeting at a parent-teacher conference 6 months ago. She taught 8th grade English, loved poetry, and understood without explanation why Marcus needed to take things slowly. Her patience and genuine warmth had gradually earned Jaden and Nia's trust. Through the grapevine, Marcus heard occasional updates about Shanice. She lived in a luxury condo downtown, but money hadn't brought the happiness she'd imagined. Gloria and Vanessa had treated her settlement like a personal ATM, their demands constant and draining. The scandal of the divorce and Darius's downfall had rippled through their social circles. Former friends kept their distance, wary of association with such public betrayal. Darius's fall had been spectacular. The dealership's bankruptcy investigations revealed years of financial manipulation. His wealthy facade had crumbled, leaving behind mounting legal bills and a ruined reputation. Last Marcus heard, he'd moved to Florida, chasing new schemes with diminishing returns. But none of that mattered now, watching Nia dance. Jaden sat with his debate team friends a few rows ahead, his recent academic awards pin glinting on his jacket. The kids spent every other weekend with Shanice, a schedule that had finally found its rhythm. They were healing, growing, thriving. Nia's solo reached its crescendo. Her movements told a story of transformation, of strength discovered through challenge. Marcus recognized the metaphor, intentional or not. They'd all been transformed by the crucible of betrayal, emerging stronger, wiser, more appreciative of genuine connections. The final notes faded, and Nia held her ending pose. The audience erupted in applause. She scanned the crowd, and when her eyes found Marcus, her face lit up with pure joy. She waved enthusiastically, her smile bright enough to illuminate the entire auditorium. Marcus waved back, his heart full. Jerome clapped his shoulder from behind, and Kendra wiped away proud tears. Simone beamed beside him, her presence warm and real. This moment, Marcus realized, was the true victory. Not the money, not the revenge, but this. His daughter dancing her heart out, his son excelling in his own way, and a future built on wisdom rather than wealth. I hope you enjoyed that one. Be sure to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next story. I've picked out 2 more for you that I think you'll really like.